Yeah, this movie had a few moments where it was just going through the motions and wasn't really entertaining. But when it was good, it was phenomenal. Hey everyone, my name is Aaron James. This is a review of the movie Mean Girls 2024, written by Tina Fey, directed by Samantha Jane and Arturo Perez Jr. This is a musical based off a Broadway play, based off the 2004 movie, based off the novel. And I mean, it's about an exchange student goes into a new school, becomes friends with the popular girls group, and mayhem ensues, drama, and it's about finding yourself and not pretending to be something you're not. I feel the 2004 Mean Girls was really good. I mean, it was a very big influence in the culture, and there's so many references to it. There are so many callbacks that we have to it since its release, even now. And so it made sense to make this movie, and I'm glad they made it almost, well, pretty much 20 years from the original. I have no issues necessarily with reboots or requels as long as they're innovative and they try to bring something different instead of being beat for beat copy of the originals. And this movie was an update that still felt very similar to it, but was able to adapt to modern times. One thing to note, and I didn't expect this, was a lot of the jokes that were taken from the original movie that were maybe people expected them to be here or they were so iconic or a big cultural influence and referenced that the studio maybe felt they had to include it here. They did not hit the same. None of them did. I think that a lot of the original jokes made for this film actually were much better executed, and maybe because they were so surprising or unexpected in the first movie when they were repeated here, I think we expected it or we saw it coming. So when it did happen, we were like, oh, there it is. I will say there were some lines that I feel, and maybe they felt as well, needed to be in the movie. Like when Regina George says, "Get in, loser." That was a good scene. I mean, it's not really impactful overall, but it was good. The songs and dance numbers were enjoyable. I was, moved into the songs. They were catchy. They were well written. I think they sounded very fun, but they were just as annoying as they were entertaining. We got a music number what felt like every 5 minutes, if that. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, we're dancing again. I was like, I need a break. But considering that the play is apparently well over 2 hours long and this movie is just under 2 hours, maybe they just had to cram a lot of the story in. I mean, they even cut out a part of a couple songs in this movie, which would explain that Regina George's friends, the Plastics, were not as interesting or didn't even seem as impactful to the story as the 2004 Mean Girls, where we actually remember the characters and things that they've done, and they've had moments or scenes where they stood out more than Regina would. The cast was really good. The performances were well done. Again, I like the dance numbers, the choreography. And I liked seeing a lot of the cast from the original movie show up, although I do wish that more showed up, and I think they could have done that, but they chose not to for whatever reasons. As far as I know, there was no drama behind the scenes during the filming or leading up to this movie, so I mean, they could have done it. I mean, they even got the original cast for a commercial. Renee Rapp, though, who plays Regina George, she's great. I was introduced to Renee Rapp, or at least as far as I remember, first saw her on the Sex Lives of College Girls on Max, and I liked her performance. It was whatever. And she was also in the Broadway play, or the second run of the Broadway play Mean Girls. And here, clearly, there's a good reason why they kept her. Her facial acting, her performance, her the way she delivered dialogue, she kept up with the dance numbers. She can sing. She was the highlight of this movie. She was incredible. I don't remember Regina George necessarily being the biggest or the major highlight in the first movie. I felt the entire cast that overall really was, it was an ensemble cast that stood out. Here in this movie, it's like they made sure Renee Rapp was the one, the star. Like I said in the beginning, there were a few moments where it felt like they were just going through the motions to move the story forward, going beat for beat from the originals, where these were probably the moments where they introduced a lot of the original jokes that didn't hit the same, and they were just letting things happen so they can get to the next moment in the movie where it felt great. I mean, there were moments where I was wondering, is this better than the original? I think it's when this movie presents its own identity that I am the most entertained, and it is near perfect for the type of movie this is. I would have to watch the original again and let this one settle before a second watch to really decide which one's better. Until next time, y'all take care of each other, check up on one another, make sure you check up on yourself, and remember, potential has no limit.